I grew up hearing the same sentence in different forms my entire life: I wasn't enough. In my family, my older sister Lena Harper was perfection wrapped in designer clothes. She did everything right. Perfect grades. Perfect smile. Perfect life. She married Ethan Cole, a hedge fund executive everyone admired, moved into an elite neighborhood, and became a member of every prestigious. When I brought home straight A's too, Mom smiled politely and said, "That's nice, sweetheart." When Lena got into Princeton, my parents threw a massive celebration with extended family and friends. When I got into Stanford, Dad barely looked up from his newspaper. "That's a good backup school," he said. That was the moment I learned something important: silence was safer than hope. I stopped sharing my achievements. I stopped explaining my dreams. I smiled, nodded, and stayed invisible. After college, I moved to San Francisco. Mom said it would look awkward having me stand next to Lena's accomplished friends. I sat in the back row. I left early. I told myself I didn't care. I lied. Lena's pregnancy announcement changed everything overnight. Mom treated it like a royal decree. Within hours, she was calling relatives, booking vendors, and bragging about the venue. The baby shower would be held at Riverside Elite Club, the most prestigious country club in our hometown. Membership there wasn't just expensive, it was exclusive in a way that made people feel important just for walking through the doors. "We are having it at Riverside, of course," Lena said during our weekly family Zoom call, one hand resting dramatically on her belly. "Only members and their families. It's very private." She tilted her head slightly, making sure the camera caught her perfectly highlighted hair and designer maternity dress. I sat in my small San Francisco apartment, listening quietly. The same apartment my family assumed was the best I could afford. "That sounds lovely," I said, forcing a smile. Lena raised an eyebrow. "You can come if you want," she added, her tone making it clear it wasn't a real invitation. "Though I know that kind of place isn't really your scene. It's upscale." Mom jumped in quickly. "Maybe Maya would be more comfortable just sending a gift, dear. Riverside has certain standards." I felt the familiar sting, sharp and automatic. Still, I smiled into the camera. "I'll be there," I said calmly. "I wouldn't miss it." Lena blinked, surprised. "Well, don't feel obligated," she replied. "I know taking time off work is hard, especially when you're still building your career." She smiled sweetly, the way people do when they think they are being generous. That night, I marked the date on my calendar and said nothing else. I didn't explain that my schedule was flexible. I didn't mention that I flew private when needed. I didn't tell them I had business at Riverside every month. There was no point. I booked a modest hotel near the airport for the weekend, exactly the kind of place they expected me to stay. I arrived in town Friday night, and didn't tell anyone I was there. Saturday morning, I stood in front of the mirror and chose a simple sundress and flat shoes. No designer labels. No jewelry. My hair pulled back in a plain ponytail. I wanted to look exactly like the version of me they believed in. The one who didn't belong. What they didn't know was that while Lena planned a baby shower at Riverside Elite Club, I was preparing to walk into a building that held secrets none of them could imagine. And by the end of the weekend, everything they thought they knew about me was going to shatter. Saturday morning, I drove to Riverside Elite Club alone. The building looked exactly the way I remembered: white columns, manicured gardens, and a championship golf course stretching endlessly behind it. Valets rushed to open doors for arriving luxury cars. Mercedes, BMWs, and sleek SUVs lined the front entrance. I parked my rental sedan in the far corner of the lot and stepped out. I was wearing a simple dress I'd bought years ago, nothing flashy, nothing memorable. My hair was pulled back neatly, my face bare except for a little mascara. I looked like someone who didn't belong, and that was intentional. As I walked toward the entrance, a valet glanced at me, hesitating for half a second. His eyes flicked to my car, then to my clothes. He forced a polite nod and stepped aside without offering assistance. Inside, the marble-floored lobby echoed with laughter and the soft clink of champagne glasses. Guests flowed toward the ballroom in elegant groups, their conversations floating past me like whispers from another world. I followed the signs to the Magnolia Ballroom. The doors were already open. Music drifted out, a string quartet playing something soft and expensive. I paused for a moment before stepping inside, taking a breath. The room was packed. About 60 women filled the space, dressed in pastel designer dresses, and heels that probably cost more than my entire outfit. Tables were decorated with towering floral arrangements in pink and gold. Waiters moved effortlessly through the crowd, offering champagne and delicate appetizers. At the front of the room, seated on a raised chair that looked more like a throne, was Lena. She glowed with attention. One hand rested on her belly, the other accepting gifts and compliments. Mom stood beside her, smiling like she'd personally achieved something monumental. I slipped quietly into the room and found a seat at the very back, next to two distant cousins I barely recognized. They glanced at me briefly, frowned in confusion, and then turned away without a word. The gift opening began almost immediately. Lena unwrapped designer baby clothes, an imported stroller, a custom-made crib. Each gift was followed by applause, laughter, and photos snapped for social media. Mom announced the price of every item like it was a badge of honor. I sat silently, sipping water, my modestly wrapped gift resting beside me. An hour passed before Mom's eyes finally found me. Her smile froze. She leaned down and whispered something to Lena. Lena turned slowly, her expression shifting from surprise to irritation. Then Mom's voice rang across the room. "Maya, you made it. Come up here and say hello to your sister." Every head turned toward me. And in that moment, I felt the weight of 60 judgments settle onto my shoulders, and the beginning of something I had waited my entire life for. I stood from my chair and walked toward the front of the room. Every step felt louder than the last. 60 pairs of eyes scanned me openly, my simple dress, my flat shoes, my bare face. I could hear whispers trailing behind me. "Who is that?" "Lena's sister." "Really? She doesn't look like family." I reached Lena and leaned in to hug her. She tolerated it for barely 2 seconds before pulling away, her smile tight and performative. "So glad you could make it," she said loudly. "I honestly didn't think you'd be able to afford taking time off work." "I made it work," I replied calmly. Mom quickly stepped in, her voice overly cheerful. "Maya works in the tech industry in San Francisco. We are very proud of her." A woman in a Chanel dress leaned forward, curious. "Oh, how exciting. Are you an engineer?" Before I could answer, Lena laughed. "Oh no," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "Nothing like that. Maya just does something with computers. We've never really understood it." She patted my hand as if I were a child. The women laughed politely. I smiled and said nothing. "Well, sit down," Mom said, gesturing toward the back. "Lunch will be served shortly." I turned to leave when Lena's voice stopped me. "Oh, Maya, before you go." I turned back. Lena's eyes sparkled with something sharp. Ethan and I have been thinking about joining another club, something even more exclusive than Riverside. The Platinum Reserve Club downtown. Have you heard of it? I nodded slightly. The membership fees are outrageous, Lena continued loudly. $75,000 a year, plus a $400,000 initiation fee. But Ethan thinks it's worth it. She paused, letting the numbers sink in. I know it's probably more than you make in several years, she added sweetly. But isn't it wonderful that Ethan can provide that kind of lifestyle? Very wonderful, I said quietly. Lena smiled wider. I mean, no offense, but you probably couldn't even afford the basic membership here at Riverside. A few women chuckled. The initiation fee alone is $200,000, Lena continued, enjoying the attention. Can you imagine? Mom laughed nervously. Lena, be nice. But Lena wasn't finished. It must be hard for you, she said, gesturing around the room. Seeing all this. Knowing it's so far out of reach. The room went silent. This was entertainment. I looked at her calmly. You're right. It's very impressive. Lena's smile turned triumphant. I just think it's important to be realistic about your place in life, she said. Some people are meant for country clubs. Others, for public parks. A few women giggled. You can't even afford the membership, Lena said louder. Be honest, Maya. When was the last time you stepped foot in a place like this? I smiled gently. This morning, I said. And for the first time, Lena looked confused. The room went completely still. Lena blinked, clearly unsure she'd heard me correctly. What? She asked, her smile faltering. I was here this morning, I repeated calmly. I had a meeting with management. A ripple of laughter moved through the room. Someone scoffed. Another woman whispered loudly, That's adorable. Mom frowned, shaking her head. Maya, don't start making things up, she said sharply. Stick to places more suited to your budget. Lena laughed again, relief washing over her face. Exactly. This lifestyle isn't for everyone. I nodded slowly. You're right. I picked up my purse. I should go, I said quietly. As I turned toward the exit, I could hear Lena's laughter rise behind me, joined by the polite chuckles of her friends. Some people really don't know their place, someone muttered. Poor thing, another voice said. Must be hard being the unsuccessful sibling. I walked through the ballroom without looking back. The lobby felt colder than before. The valets avoided eye contact as I passed. I stepped outside into the sunlight, breathing deeply, and walked to my car. I didn't drive far. 2 blocks away, I pulled into a small coffee shop parking lot and turned off the engine. I sat there quietly, hands resting on the steering wheel, watching the time tick forward. At 10:47 a.m., my phone rang. Ms. Harper, a familiar voice said. This is Thomas Reed, General Manager of Riverside Elite Club. Good morning, Thomas, I replied. I just wanted to confirm, he continued carefully. You want to proceed with the membership cancellations? Yes, I said without hesitation. All of them. There was a pause. Including your family's accounts. Especially my family's, I said. Lena Harper and Ethan Cole. My mother's individual membership as well. And any extended family listed under those accounts. Another pause, longer this time. Ms. Harper, Thomas said gently, your sister is currently hosting an event in the Magnolia Ballroom. If we proceed immediately, it will cause a scene. I'm aware, I replied. Please inform them now. Understood, he said. I'll take care of it personally. I ended the call and leaned back in my seat. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel satisfied. I felt finished. 3 minutes later, my phone lit up with an incoming call from Mom. I let it ring. Then Lena called. Then Ethan. I started the car and pulled back onto the road, driving toward the airport, my phone vibrating endlessly in the cup holder. By the time I boarded my flight back to San Francisco, I had over 30 missed calls and dozens of unread messages. I ignored them all. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't running away. I was simply walking forward, leaving their world behind, knowing that the consequences they'd never imagined were finally catching up to them. By Sunday evening, my phone had recorded 43 missed calls and dozens of frantic messages. I didn't listen to a single voicemail. Monday morning, I was back in San Francisco, seated in my office on the top floor of a glass tower overlooking the city. The building was quiet, efficient, and entirely mine. At exactly 9 a.m. Pacific time, I returned Mom's call. Maya, oh my God, she cried the moment I spoke. There's been a terrible mistake. The club cancelled all our memberships. They embarrassed us in front of everyone. I'm sorry to hear that, I said calmly, scrolling through quarterly financial reports. They escorted us out like criminals, she continued. Lena was crying. People were filming. This man, the general manager, Thomas Reed, said the owner demanded it happen immediately. That must have been uncomfortable, I said. Maya, you work with computers, Mom said desperately. Maybe this was some kind of system error. A hack? Can you fix it? I don't think I can, I replied. There was a pause. Why not? Because there was no mistake. Silence. Maya, Mom said slowly, what are you talking about? I leaned back in my chair. Do you remember when I was 12 and got straight A's, and you said, that's nice, dear, then took Lena out to celebrate without me? She didn't answer. Do you remember when I got into Stanford and Dad called it a backup school? Still silence. Do you remember Saturday, I continued, when Lena told me I didn't belong at Riverside and you told me to stick to public parks? Mom's breathing grew shallow. Maya, she whispered. I own Riverside Elite Club, I said calmly. I've owned it for 6 years. The silence stretched. I also own the Platinum Reserve Club Lena was bragging about. And 15 other luxury properties across 3 states. That's not possible, Mom whispered. My computer job. I continued. I founded a software company at 23. Sold it for $780 million at 26. I used that money to build a property portfolio. I am currently worth a little over $2 billion. I could hear Mom struggling to breathe. Thomas Reed works for me, I said softly. When he called asking if I was sure about cancelling your memberships, he was asking me. Maya, her voice cracked. I asked him to do it during the baby shower, I added. So Lena could feel, just once, what it's like to be publicly humiliated. She began to cry. I'm not finished, I said evenly. The memberships are permanently cancelled. And all 17 properties have your names flagged. You are not welcome at any of them. You can't do that, she sobbed. I can, I replied. I own them. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Please, she's pregnant. So was I once, I said quietly. Pregnant with hope. And you crushed it every time. The line went silent. And for the first time, they finally understood who I had always been, the truth they never bothered to see. 2 weeks after the baby shower, Mom called me from a number I didn't recognize. I answered before realizing it wasn't blocked. "Maya," she cried. "Thank God you picked up. Please listen." I stayed silent. "Lena went into early labor," Mom said shakily. "The stress, the doctors think it triggered it. She had the baby yesterday. A girl. She's healthy, but Lena isn't doing well. She's barely eating. She won't hold the baby. They say it's postpartum depression." I closed my eyes. "Please," Mom whispered. "Whatever lesson you were trying to teach, we understand now. We were wrong. But please don't punish the baby for our mistakes." I took a slow breath. "What's the baby's name?" There was a pause. "They named her Maya." The word landed heavier than I expected. "I'll help," I said finally. "But understand this, nothing else changes. The memberships stay cancelled." "Oh, thank you," Mom sobbed. "Thank you. I'm not doing this for you or for Lena," I said firmly. "I'm doing it for the baby." I arranged for my PR team to remove the videos and manage the online narrative. It cost 6 figures. I didn't mention the amount. Later that evening, Mom tried to say she was proud of me. "Don't," I interrupted. "You had 32 years to be proud. Don't say it now because you know my worth." She cried quietly. A month later, I set up a $5 million trust fund for baby Maya, accessible at 25. I added a condition: financial education starting at age 12. She would grow up knowing her value wasn't tied to approval or status. 3 months later, a package arrived at my office. Inside was a framed photo of baby Maya wrapped in the handmade blanket I'd sent from San Francisco. The one Lena had once mocked. A handwritten note fell out. "She sleeps with this every night," Lena wrote. "You were right. Price doesn't equal value. I see you now. I'm sorry." I placed the photo on my desk beside an old magazine cover from years ago, Tech Visionary turned Property Mogul: How Maya Harper Built a Billion-Dollar Empire. The issue my family never noticed. Every morning, I walk into my office at Riverside Elite Club, the one I still own, the one they can never enter again. And I smile. Because I finally understood something that took me a lifetime to learn: their inability to see my worth was never a reflection of my value. It was a reflection of their vision. And I no longer need their approval. I never did.